What's up, basement dwellers? Welcome to another edition of the Jersey Phanatics. I'm your host, Chris, the Dace Man, Dace, and joining me as always, Erik Barezzo.
The cold weather in New Jersey sucks.
You're not wrong there. Unfortunately, the free agency market is doing a whole lot of nada, unless you're Los Angeles Angels Anaheim. So we're going to do some Phanatic Focuses for you this week. We're going to talk about the one, the only, J-Ro himself, Jimmy Rollins. What are your first thoughts on Jimmy Rollins before we start rolling into his career?
It was probably the best shortstop. That's a great way to start off this podcast. He was probably the best shortstop that we've had, and he was also the most consistent too. There was almost every single year he went above 130 games. So just to be able to have that consistency at that position was amazing. There was only one year that he didn't, and that was 2010. But 2010, obviously, we all know that year sucked for everyone.
Yeah. We don't want to talk about that year.
Yeah.
He had a very long tenure here. He got called up in 2001. Actually, was it 2001 or 2000?
2000.
2000, yeah. So he got called up on September 7th, 2000, wearing the number 29, which is very weird. And he was facing the Florida Marlins, where he had 2 hits and 4 at-bats in the game, with his first MLB hit being a triple off Chuck Smith of the Marlins. He ended up batting .321 in the 14 games he played in the month of September, stealing 3 bases and batting in 5 runs. He's got a storied career here. He played for 14 years. He got the call up in September 2000. We currently have a contract with a shortstop for 11 years in Trey Turner, who we're already trying to move out of shortstop.
The only difference there, though, is that Jimmy started his career at 21. He didn't start his tenure at 30 that Trey Turner's starting it at.
Yeah, Trey's bounced around from the Nationals to the Dodgers, and now he's here. Jimmy, though, he's a staple. So when you think of the 08 Phillies, would you consider him to be the guy? Like, if you think of, to me, the guy's Chase Utley. But I have a very limited view on the career of these Phillies because you and I have talked off microphone or off podcast before. I didn't really start following until 2007, and Jimmy had already been on the team for almost 7 years at that point.
So he was obviously one of the core 4 that we needed in order to win the World Series. Without him there, you're not winning the World Series. But I don't think he's the number 1 piece. I still think the main reason why we did win is because of Ryan Howard. Just because of that pop and that what he gave you in that middle of the lineup. Either it was a walk, strikeout, or home run, whatever it was must-see TV. But Jimmy was definitely up there. He's one of the most important pieces of the Phillies' tenure in their 100-something year history.
Well, the interesting piece, too, is before we started this recording, we were trying to figure out who the hell he replaced. And to just shoot it out there to come to mind, my knowledge base is 2007 onward. But even in 2007 onward, I can't name you Philly shortstops. It's just, there's really no, we know who our third baseman is. We know who our good pitchers were. We know who some of our best catchers were. Is he an all-time shortstop when it comes to the Phillies?
Oh, absolutely. He definitely is. He's in the conversation for being either 1 or in the top 3 at least. Like I said, the consistency that he gave you just nonstop every year, the energy that he gave you, the team does not turn around without what he did in 2007 with saying that we're the team to beat. And just the fire that he brought every single game, he backed it up. And that was the year that he went 162 games. And it was the most important. I believe, was it 2007 was his MVP year? I think it was either that year or because 2006 was Ryan Howard.
He was a National League MVP in 2007.
Yeah.
3-time All-Star in 2001, 2002, 2005, which who would have been the National League shortstop cock blocking him?
In what year?
Dude, his whole career. It seemed like after
Oh.
2005, he never got the call back to the All-Star game.
Uh, who was it? I don't remember.
I can't think of the who would have been blocking him. Even in like he's the National League MVP in 07, and you're telling me he didn't make All Star?
There was a lot of good shortstops around that time,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing that would give you what Jimmy Rollins did on the consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Because
it was just
it's weird looking at his stats. He was a 3-time All Star in 2001, 2002, 2005. Then if you look at like his personal accolades, like end of the year awards that we talked about, like we did last week, he's a 4-time Gold Glove award winner from 2007 to 2009, and in 2012. He's a Silver Slugger in 2007. He's a National League MVP in 2007, and he's the NL stolen base leader in 2001. But we'll exclude that. But if you look at the years from 2007 to 2000, we'll say 11, because we know the team kind of fell off after that. Not being on the All Star team just seems
yeah.
weird. Especially since that was the team's best years and probably highest popularity that we look
Oh
back
yeah,
fondly
for
on.
sure. Yeah, it was definitely their best ride in Phillies history.
The interesting note too is, as we're talking, the Hall of Fame vote will be happening. I think they announce it next week, right?
I
Or
think so. Yeah.
so the interesting thing, it's his third or fourth year on the ballot.
I think he's going to eventually get in. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's this time, unfortunately. But his numbers have been creeping up every year. But I do think that he's going to eventually get in because his numbers are up there with some of the people that are in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
Like he's not better than Derek Jeter and stuff like that. Like I understand that, but he definitely belongs in the same conversation as some of them. That's for sure.
Well, it's interesting. This is his third year on the ballot, I believe. Maybe fourth year.
I
Yeah, I'm gonna
think
go.
I think what I think what hurts him though is his last 2 or 3 years, especially in Philly. Like if we had a competent team in 2014 and 2013, he's there's no reason for him to even be on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just that's just what it was. We just sucked at drafting, and the players that we did draft, we traded them to get better players, and then all of a sudden it just went. Not even the Sixers tank season, but it was awful that those couple years.
The decade of desperation and depression.
Yeah, they tried everything in order to get back to where they were in those '07 to 11 years, and they just couldn't. They kept on the players for too long. They kept Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Chooch, who also all went to LA like back to back years.
Yep, Blanton, all of them. Ryan was the
Yeah,
only one who didn't get the call.
yeah. So every single one. That's when like you really saw that everyone was gonna start chasing the rings because LA had a good team back then.
So let's take a look at some of his stats. His career batting average was a 264. His hits were 2,455 with 231 home runs, 936 RBIs, 470 stolen bases. Other awards he had won was the Roberto Clemente Award in 2014, which we affectionately called the Old Timer Award last week on our show, and rightfully so. That was in his last 2 years of his career, so he got the Old Timer Award. Silver Slugger 2007 we talked about, and then of course World Series champion 2008. He was drafted by the Phillies in the second round. This is mind blowing to me. In '96,
Wow.
and he was assigned to the rookie league of Martinville Phillies. He led the team in walks and stolen bases with 20, but he only batted at 238. 96. Holy shit.
It's amazing. But what's even more amazing about that, not just the drafting in '96, but the fact that it took them only 4 years to get up to the majors.
Mm-hmm.
Because nowadays you see, like even back then for Ryan Howard, it took him, I, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years in order to get up here.
Yeah, well, I feel like first base. If you walk into this league playing first base, you're fucked, because that's where you hide your players.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we right before we came on this podcast, we were talking about how I was shocked to see that Pat Burrell was brought up the same year as Jimmy Rollins, and he started out at first base for 58 games.
mm-hmm.
Like, and he was also number 33. You think of Pat Burrell, you don't think of first base, and you don't think of 33.
Nope.
So it's two things that immediately, like, I don't know, like you said, I probably blacked out a lot of things that happened back in the day, especially before 2007, because I just remember buying the T-shirt almost immediately that had the tombstone on it, and it said like "Rest in Peace Mets season," and it said "We're the team to beat," and it was like my favorite freaking T-shirt that I ever had, and it was just because of Jimmy Rollins saying that. Like, it was the greatest thing in the world,
Yeah,
because there was like 2 weeks left in the season, and you're like, we're the team to beat. Like, we're like 6 games out of the first place, dude. What are you talking about?
and the crazy thing is, if you look at Phillies players, and we're going to keep, he ended up going through. He earned a promotion to Low A Piedmont Boll Weevils in '97. He was the youngest player on that team at age 18, and he led the team in the games that played, at bats, runs, which was he was 94. He was fifth in that league. 151 hits, which made him fourth in the league, and then 8 triples, which tied him for fourth. Like you said, he climbed up the system really fast. So he's 97. It's 97. He's 18. In 3 years, he'll be 21, barely able to drink, and actually not even 21. He gets called up to play for the major league.
Yeah.
Jimmy Rollins, if you look at it, and again, I'll keep using the caveat that I wasn't really following until after 2007. 2007, I was loosely getting. Basically, when I became an adult and left school, I started following baseball because I had money to spend. But he was, if you're our age bracket, he is our childhood baseball guy.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you grow up with Jimmy Rollins, who debuts in 2000. So for us, we're in 6th grade, maybe 7th.
Yes. Yeah.
So he followed us through our high school career and stuff like that. So if you're an avid baseball fan, especially an avid Phillies fan, Jimmy Rollins was the guy, and he was only a few years older than us.
Yeah. Like you just said, like he was one of the biggest stars for us. It was just being able. I remember meeting him because he came into my Home Depot when I worked there, and he came in. And it was like the greatest thing in the world, just watching him freaking buy a washer and dryer set. I was like, what the hell is this guy doing walking around in my Home Depot? Like, he can have anybody order it for him. Like, it was the coolest thing in the world. But he was the nicest guy in the world. He was with his wife, took pictures with a bunch of people, signed people's aprons. Um, he was just a down to earth guy. And like I said, he had that fire to him, and he backed up everything he said, no matter what it was. And it all started from that 2007 season, and basically just running the Mets into the ground. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what really, Phillies always have a rivalry with Mets, but it sort of started majorly after that, at least for our age group.
So in 2001, he made the official switch from number 29 to number 11, with one exception of the year 2003, where apparently he wore number 6. I don't remember. Again, 2007 onward for me, but he spent the entire 2001 season with the Major League Phillies and hit his first MLB home run on May 2nd off of Brian Bohannon of the Colorado Rockies. So in the rookie season, Rollins led the National League in triples and stolen bases, becoming the first rookie to do so since 1951. And he led the NL in at bats. It was his first year in the NL All-Star team. He was the only Phillies representative during that game, and he took over from Doug Glanville as the leadoff hitter and maintained that role for almost a decade. So, 2001, out the gates, first full season, All-Star.
It's insane.
Yeah. Entering the 2002 season, despite his youth, Rollins sought to be the leader of the clubhouse, according to a Philly Inquirer article. He was only 23 years old of age. 23, and he's an all-star, and it's nuts. He would go on to regress a little bit, hitting at 245 with 11 home runs, but he still led the NL in 10 triples, 31 stolen bases, which was 15 fewer than he did in 2001. So,
and it was kind of like what Ryan Howard went through when everyone was basically saying how they shouldn't re-sign him again. They should let him walk. They should trade him, so on and so forth. So he definitely faced the adversity too. And he was able, like I keep saying, he was able to back everything up. There was nothing that he didn't do.
Mm-hmm. So prior to the 2003 season, he worked with Tony Gwynn and skills at the plate, predominantly using the whole field and be more what they call a, quote, slap hitter. So he began the season slowly. He had a hamstring injury in spring training, which kind of hindered his progress. It caused then manager Larry Bowa to kind of drop him in the lineup. He rebounded to hit a 263 for the year with 8 home runs and 62 RBIs. He stole an all-time career low of 20 bases, which, you know, you look at our leadoff guy now who can only steal 2.
Yeah.
And among the season highlights, he was a game-winning RBI against John Schmaltz, who can go fuck himself because those broadcasts are terrible. And then stealing his 100th career base in September of that year. That year, he would also go on to sign a $2.4 million contract with the Phillies to avoid arbitration before the 2004 season.
And the one thing that Larry Bowa basically never allowed, what you can see today, is all these players, they don't hustle to first base. Like if they ground it to the pitcher, they're barely jogging. If Jimmy Rollins did that, he was out of the game immediately. And that was one of the things that Larry Bowa really tried to incorporate in his team, albeit it wasn't very long that he was managing for, just because of his personality and tend to rub people the wrong way. But he forced his players to hustle and work hard.
Could use a little bit of that in Topper these days.
Yeah.
Considering you have one, quote, the fastest player in the league with Trey Turner, and he jogs it out sometimes. Fucking
even Johan Rojas.
So 2004 was actually the year of Jimmy Rollins. This is what the Phillies have been waiting for. He batted .289, scored 119 runs, led the league in triples, cut down considerably on his strikeouts. Take notes, Kyle Schwarber. Batted well from both sides of the plate and hit well in clutch positions. Overall, he achieved another quadruple double, which was home runs, stolen bases, doubles, and triples in double figures in a single season. He also got his first career grand slam and posted career highs in a plethora of offensive categories, including batting average, slugging percentage, RBIs, and hits. So 2004, Jimmy Rollins, we could say, had arrived, even though he'd been in the league for about 4 years now.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. He was definitely coming up for sure with that team.
And then I think he finally found his sweet spot from 2005 to 2007 because new manager Charlie Manuel really revolved around hitting many home runs. Sorry, is his strategy. But I think that was a good pairing for Jimmy and Charlie. So you got 4 years of Jimmy and Boa, and then you ended up doing what? 10 years? 11 years out of Jimmy and Charlie? I don't remember when Charlie stopped.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
But I really think with Jimmy and Charlie, it was a good pairing.
Because that was all too long, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just knew that whole entire relationship was dead, too, and you just kept bringing them back, unfortunately, just because of him winning the World Series for us. But it was definitely a great pairing with those two. And getting like I said, like Charlie Manuel, every time he talked, it was must listen, be it you hated him because of his little Virginia slang and whatever you thought of him, but you wanted to hear what he said because he was almost honest to a fault. Like he would tell you, "No, we sucked today," or "Jimmy Rollins was terrible," or "Ryan Howard, the most strikeouts I've ever seen. It's embarrassing." Like it's just no matter what it was, he was telling you what you wanted to hear. He wasn't blowing smoke up the players' asses.
Mm-hmm. That just keeps saying we're a good team on paper.
Yeah.
2005 was a good year for Jimmy. It was a slow start, but he ultimately ended the season with a 36 game streak where he hit 379 during that time period and would eventually carry it over into the next season, but only for 2 games. It was his 4th career quadruple double, tying only Johnny Damon for the most among active players. He batted a .290 that year with 12 home runs, 54 RBIs, and 41 stolen bases. So then the next year, in 2006, there was a lot of hype around Mr. Rollins. If he could extend that hitting streak to beat Joe DiMaggio, he ultimately didn't. He struggled during the first half of the season, posting just a batting average above .259, but rebounded on the second half, ultimately posting strong cumulative numbers once again. He became the 3rd player in Phillies history that year to score at least 100 runs in 3 consecutive seasons, tying Chuck Klein and Bobby Abreu. He led the NL shortstops in RBIs, runs scored, extra base hits, and total bases. Again, I really want to. I'll have to go back and look at this, and probably should have been more prepared for this episode to see who the other shortstops were during this time period, because he wasn't an All-Star in 2006. I believe he was 2001, 2002, 2005, and that no longer saw him, if I remember correctly what I said earlier. Yeah. So to lead the shortstops in stats, which I guess also the common theme with him is apparently he's a slow starter. Because each one of these years, 2005 and 2006 so far.
It was Jose Reyes.
Oh, that's exactly why he didn't go to the fucking All-Star game.
Yeah. I knew it was a Met, but I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, it was Jose Reyes. Because they had David Wright and Jose Reyes all those years, and Carlos Beltran.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just nonstop Mets.
Which then makes sense, especially since Jimmy, again, the 2005-2006 season started slow.
Yeah.
So if he's a slow starter in most of his seasons, you're never going to make the All-Star game, which doesn't matter if you're winning this World Series.
And even then, Ryan Howard was a reserve.
And he was constantly fucked by Pujols and
yep,
Votto.
I was going to say that, yeah. Nonstop with freaking Pujols, man. The 1 year where he had better numbers, or just slightly better numbers, or even close, it was Pujols getting the award.
Took him going to the Angels, right? And then at that point, Votto was dominating.
Yep.
First, I would even say maybe Zimmerman too.
Yeah, it was Nationals. He ended up getting screwed by a lot, but the one major year I remember, it was that damn Pujols got it, but it was like it came out in the off season that he was on steroids that year.
Mm-hmm.
So come on, dude, really, how's he supposed to compete with that? So he had 58 home runs. It was insane.
Well, Jimmy would end up finishing his 2006 season with a .277 batting average with 25 home runs, 83 RBIs, and at the time was the career high for him. 36 stolen bases, and once again, the Phillies barely missed the playoffs. So this was the team bubbling up that they were getting ready to go on that run that we remember so fondly. And then your favorite year, 2007, or maybe your second favorite year, considering they won the championship in 2008.
Yeah.
But that's where he kicked off spring training, saying that they were the team to beat. The quote, in January 23rd, 2007, Jimmy Rollins said, "The Mets had a chance to win the World Series last year. Last year is over. I think we are the team to beat in the NL East, finally. But that's only on paper."
Yeah, it was amazing. And then everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? They won the division. They got all the way in the playoffs. What are we doing, man?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember everyone killing them the whole entire year, especially because we're down the whole entire year. And then the last 2 weeks is when we ended up making back 7 games. So he backed it up that year for sure.
He did. He ended the 2007 season with a .296 batting average, led the league in games played with 162 that you had referenced earlier. Had a 716 at-bats, which was a major league record. 139 runs, 20 triples, and was second in hits with 212, total bases of 380, and extra base hits of 88. He had a power speed number of 34.6 and had 30 home runs, 94 RBIs, 41 stolen bases. He backed up that January quote. Unfortunately, the Phillies would get to the postseason, but were swept by the Colorado Rockies in the National League Divisional Series. Rollins was also named National League Most Valuable Player that year and won his first of 3 consecutive Gold Glove awards, becoming the first Philly shortstop to win a Gold Glove since Larry Bowa. There's a shortstop. And he was the first player in MLB history to record 200 hits, 20 triples, 30 home runs, and 30 stolen bases in a season. Suck it, Ohtani. He also set a single-season MLB record for plate appearances with 778. So, peak Rollins in 2007.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. He brought everything that year. Every single thing that could go right, even just playing the 162. He knew that he had to play through bumps and bruises because of what he said in January. So there was no matter what that happened that year, he was going to come out of any game and he wasn't going to give it his all because he knew he had the massive target on his back.
Absolutely. And in 2008, the year that we all fondly remember that keeps getting further and further in the rearview mirror, he started the season off on the DL. So after beginning the season by hitting a home run on opening day, he landed on the DL for the first time in his career in early April, suffering a sprained ankle. So he didn't make any guarantees in the offseason that they were the team to beat again. And to be honest, looking at this season and the way it was starting, didn't look so good.
Yeah, no, not at all. But he still ended up playing 137 games.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still damn impressive what he was able to do.
Yeah, he ended up returning in May and had a productive summer, ultimately posting a career-high 47 stolen bases. His batting average dropped to 277, which, you give and you take. You won a World Series. His home runs and RBIs dropped to 11 and 59, respectively, and then they made that run in the postseason. He was the focal point of the team, which led them to the 2008 World Series. He had a leadoff home run in Game 4 of the Divisional Series, and in the Championship Series, he hit a leadoff home run in Game 5. And despite their struggles early in the World Series, he eventually contributed to a strong situational hitting, which helped the Phillies win the series of 5 games. Rollins was honored with the Fielding Bible Award for defensive excellence at the top MLB shortstop during the year. So there you have it. That was the big year. That was the championship year.
It was the second most important year for Phillies baseball. They only had 2 World Series to their name, and that's one of them.
So Rollins would begin 2009 by participating in the World Baseball Classic, which is not a good thing for shortstops. But he hit 417. So that's kind of crazy.
Trey did the same thing. He hit amazing in the World Baseball Classic, and you're like, holy shit, can't wait till he comes aboard our team. And he did nothing.
He didn't show up till August. He took a summer vacation.
Yep.
After setting a career high of stolen bases in 2008, he did not steal one in the season's first 17 games. World Baseball Classic curse.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's his longest drought to begin the season since 2004. May 21st of that year, he reached the 1,500 hit milestone in a game against the Reds. And as of the end of June, he was only hitting 205. The World Baseball Classic curse.
Yeah. Wow.
The team would end up going back to the World Series that year, only to drop it to the Yankees, unfortunately. And his stats did improve in the second half of the season. He ended up batting .288 from July 3rd to the end of the year. Overall, he compiled a National League leading 672 at-bats, finished 4th in doubles with 43, 31 stolen bases, 100 RBIs, and a .250 batting average overall with 21 home runs.
And that year you felt really damn good about that team, especially obviously getting back to the World Series after just winning it. But as the great Garrett Stubbs says, the vibes were off the record. Like they were off the charts. You felt amazing. Cliff Lee catching the ball so nonchalantly in Yankee Stadium like that. You felt amazing. You felt like they were going to do it again, and then just like in 2022, all the wheels fell off too. So
it's unfortunate. It
yeah.
is what it is. It's unfortunately the way baseball is such a mean mistress when it comes to this shit. But Rollins' 2010 season was marked with many injuries. He missed a total of 74 games, playing only 88, which was the lowest total of his major league career. Apparently, while warming up out in the outfield prior to the Phillies game on April 12th, he strained his right calf, put him on the DL. He spent April 13th to May 16th and May 22nd to the 21st on the DL with that injury. Wilson Valdez, there's a name you haven't heard in a while, was his backup. When he returned, he hit his first career walk-off home run on June 23rd. Overall, he ended that season with 243, 8 home runs, and 41 RBIs. Someone also questioned if that's a stupid note to have, if his MVP campaign in 2007 was a fluke. So it's 3 years after winning MVP, people are like, was he all hype?
Yeah. And I remember that so much. Like everyone was like, "What the hell's going on? Like, was it a mistake? Should it have gone to somebody else?" Oh yeah, I remember that for sure.
But who? Wilson Valdez?
Probably Albert Pujols. Yeah.
He would have played first, though, right? Then that would have been.
Well, the MVP here can go to anybody.
The MVP went to him. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like if he should be on the Phillies as a shortstop.
No.
2011 was a contract year for Rollins, so naturally, in a contract year like JT will do this year, he's going to play fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He improved his batting average, his home runs, and his RBI totals. He made his 11th consecutive opening day start, and for the first time in several seasons, he was healthy.
It was Matt Holliday came in second place for the NL MVP that year.
That he won?
Yeah. Matt Holliday got 336 votes. Jimmy Rollins got 353.
I pulled some electoral college bullshit there, huh?
Yeah.
So on December 17th of 2011, Rollins signed a 3-year agreement for $33 million with a vesting option of the 4th year worth another $11 million. And that option vested when he reached 1,100 plate appearances in 2013-2014. He started the season's first 49 games. It took him 54 plate appearances to record his first RBI, which was the longest drought of his career. On July 20th, for the second time in his career, he had a multi-home run game in which one home run came batting right-handed and one came left-handed. He's the first Phillies player to do it multiple times. His season wasn't completely rid of injuries. On August 22nd, he had a right groin strain, which landed him on the DL, causing him to miss 18 games. And he returned in time for the playoffs. That is the year that we don't like to talk about.
Yeah, no, not great.
He posted a .268 batting average with 16 home runs and 63 RBIs at the season's conclusion. He had an okay year, not his best, but enough to warrant him a contract for 3 more years with a couple options afterwards.
2011 didn't exist, so next.
2012-2014, the beginning of the Dark Ages. He was just average. He posted a .250 batting average with 23 home runs, 68 RBIs. He hit poorly at the beginning of the season. It seems to be a trend with him that he was a slow starter. He didn't hit a home run until his 136th at-bat of that season, which was the second longest it had ever taken him to hit a home run. He missed 3 games from May 21st to 23rd because of the birth of his daughter. On July 31st, career note, he hit his 4th career inside the park home run, which led the active players at the time. And basically, he missed the final 3 games of the season with a calf strain. And he was the only player in MLB history to record 2,000 hits, 350 stolen bases, 150 home runs as a member of one team. It was his fourth career season, during which he hit at least 20 home runs and 30 stole bases, which only trailed Bobby and Barry Bonds.
The only good thing about those years, like I said before, was his health. He for 2012 156, 2013 160, and 2014 was 138.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2014 was rough, but that was also the years of what the hell are we doing? We're still trying to beat this dead horse. It's time to get younger and get fresher, and you could see that it was coming, but nobody in the Phillies organization did, and it just took them too long in order to abandon it.
And Ruben killed the farm. So
yeah, yep,
got all those pitchers, and as cool of a time as it was, and we kind of begged for it on our other shows when we're asking for Juan Soto and shit like that. It hurt because the decade of darkness came afterwards. Prior to the 2013 season, Rollins went back to play for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic and was the only player from Team USA to make the event's all-star team. He was back for the Phillies in time for opening day, made his 13th consecutive start on opening day, tied fifth in the NL for games played with 160. He led the team with 600 at-bats, 151 hits, 36 doubles, and 59 walks. He achieved several career milestones during this season, including his 800th RBI, his 433rd double, breaking Ed Delanty's record on May 15th, his 45th career leadoff home run, which was the fourth most in MLB history. He declined, unfortunately. His batting average was .252, and with 6 home runs and 39 RBIs. So this was the beginning of the end for him, at least as a Philly.
Yeah, it was rough. Those last few years were real rough. Not just for him, just for the whole entire team.
Yeah, and 2014 he didn't help matters because apparently there's alleged disinterest and lack of motivation that seemed to be coming from Jimmy Rollins after commenting "who cares" in regards to spring training. To Buster Olney, who penned a column suggesting that there was a sentiment within the Phillies organization that he should be traded. The rumors were dispelled by Rollins and Ruben Amaro Jr. as ridiculous. He opened the season by hitting a grand slam against the Texas Rangers, which was his 200th career home run. After 2 games, Rollins left the team on paternity leave when they had their second child. He returned on June 14th. He singled to right field for his 2,235th hit to surpass Mike Schmidt as the Phillies' all-time leader in hits. The game paused as Schmidt and the remainder of the Phillies congratulated Rollins at first base. Following the season, Rollins and recently retired Chicago White Sox captain Paul Konerko became the first ever co-winners of the Roberto Clemente Old Timers Award. It's what it is. It's what it is.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Call it what it is. An interesting note for 2014, he was traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he would bring in minor league pitchers Tom Windle and Philly great Zach Eflin.
Jesus Christ.
Hey. He's not having great success elsewhere, but he 2022. Rollins waived his no-trade clause. He did things here. Rollins waived his no-trade clause and stated that he was expecting to take on a leadership position with his new team. He wanted fucking out. He saw the writing on the wall. He played his first game with the Dodgers during opening day against the Padres on April 6th, 2015, hitting a 3-run homer off Sean Kelly. He finished with his lowest batting average with a .224. 13 home runs, 41 RBIs. He stole 12 bases. And then he lost his starting job to Corey Seager. For the final game of the season,
that's
manager...
Not a bad person to lose it to.
What's that?
I said it's not a bad person to lose it to, though.
It's not, but that's a tough pill to swallow because on the final game of that season, Don Mattingly designated Rollins to be the 2015 player manager, but he wouldn't be there the next year. So
he wanted him to be like Pete Rose?
I guess. Did Don Mattingly leave or something?
I don't remember that at all.
I mean, I don't follow Dodgers, except for the bullshit they're pulling now. Because on February 22nd, 2016, Rollins signed a minor league contract with the Chicago White Sox, not even a major league contract, that included a major league spring training invitation. He competed with Tyler Saladino for the starting role at shortstop, and by the end of spring training, the team announced that Rollins would serve as their opening day shortstop. Due to Rollins' familiar number 11 already being retired in honor of Luis Aparicio, he wore number 7 for the White Sox, which the following year would be worn by the man who replaced Rollins at shortstop, Tim Anderson. Rollins would bat that year with a .221, officially his lowest batting average, with 2 home runs, 5 stolen bases in the 41 games he played for the White Sox. On June 10th, he was DFA'd so the White Sox could promote Tim Anderson from the minor leagues. And the last bit of major league news for Jimmy Rollins was on December 19th, 2016, Rollins signed a minor league contract with the San Francisco Giants that included an invitation to spring training. He was released on March 31st, 2017.
Yikes.
Didn't make it through.
And then he retired in 2019.
Yes. So in 2019, Rollins returned to the Phillies in 2 separate capacities, in January as a special advisor for the team, and in March as an on-air commentator for their television broadcasts. I don't remember that.
I remember it because I actually enjoyed his commentary, but a lot of people didn't.
He's on ESPN now, right?
It's either ESPN or MLB Network, one of the two.
After advising the team since 2019, the Phillies announced on March 31st, 2022, that Rollins had named a special advisor to the president of baseball operations. So he's still actively involved in our organization, but not, God, I would say is about as active as Chase.
Yeah.
Like he's active in MLB and he holds a spot for Philly in his heart, but realistically he's working more so for MLB.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think he's a part of the MLB Network. It's either that or ESPN, like you said. One of the two.
The final interesting note about Rollins, I think when it comes to the Phillies, his Phillies career, they have not officially retired his uniform number, but no one has worn it since.
See, now I thought his number was actually retired because no one has worn it since.
I guess nobody wants to be the guy to be like, yeah, you know who would? He's not here. He's on assignment, but Tyler Fried would. He'd walk right up and be like, I'm 11 now, bitches. TF money 11. That's how I roll.
Yeah, well, that seems like it's coming in.
It'll be his Wall of Fame induction when it happens. It'll be a whole weekend dedicated to him. So we had talked about that in the past of like, how are they going to do some of these alumni weekends going forward? Because this 08 team has a lot of people who are going to end up on that wall. I think there's like a case where you could have Chooch go in with like a couple pitchers or vice, like something like that. J-Ro is going to have his whole fucking weekend to himself.
Yeah. You have to have, I think, the core 5, Chooch, Jimmy, Chase, Ryan, Cole. I think those 5 are going to be the ones that are going to end up on the wall. But it's going to be when and who goes first.
Honestly, out of all of them, I would honestly think Jimmy.
I think it is because he came up first.
He came up first. He was the longest tenured out of all of them. And again, there's that argument when you look. I know you say the core 5, but you look. I see it as like the big 3: Ryan, Chase, and Jimmy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who would make the argument that Jimmy was the guy. And we talked about it here that he in his mind he was the guy, the locker room leader.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think if you asked, like, if Ryan Howard was on the call right now, I'm sure he would say the same thing, that it was Jimmy Rollins that was the leader of that team.
Yeah. So I could see him going in. The only way he would share it is Charlie on the wall.
I don't know.
If Charlie's not on the wall,
I couldn't name one person on that wall.
John Crook. And David Montgomery, who has a fucked up corner that did not benefit us this year.
Ooh. Monty's corner.
Monty's corner. Take it down. They put it up, and all of a sudden it just started fucking us. Helped us before his name was on there, with JT getting his in the park home run.
Yeah.
I think if Charlie, well, I don't want to be grim, but if he were to pass away before Jimmy went in, I could see Jimmy and Charlie going in the same year.
Yeah. And I thought that, like, I hate to say it, I thought Charlie was a goner this year.
Yeah. Yeah, or even last year, right? Weren't they in the playoffs and he couldn't even make it up to see the game because he was going through some surgeries. I'm very curious if Charlie's in or not. I know this is a Jimmy Rollins episode, but I'm very curious. He is on the Phillies Wall of Fame. Charlie.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did they put him up? Does it say?
Charlie went. I'm going to assume it was recently, and unfortunately, I probably wasn't fucking there. 2014.
Okay.
So not really recently. It was 10 years ago. And Pat Burrell is already on the wall.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, of that era, Pat Burrell's there. Roy Halladay for obvious fucking reasons. Charlie's there. Yeah, Bobby played with Jimmy. He went on in 2019.
Bobby who?
Abreu.
Oh,
you're,
no.
You're Betty. And 2012, Mike Lieberthal went on.
Oh.
Oh, look at this. 2005, Andrew Knapp is going on. Look at that.
Yeah, okay.
Look at that. That's why you don't know who's on the wall. You fucking hate half the people on the wall.
Andrew Knapp is not on the wall.
He's not on the wall. But I think given that, Roy's obviously the reason he went in is because he passed away. But given that Charlie's already in and Pat, I really didn't realize Pat Burrell was on that fucking wall. They must not have had anybody available.
Yeah, I'm shocked by that. Like that Pat would go in over, because that's the same time that Jimmy Rollins came up, is the year 2000.
Yeah, and Pat stayed on the team for 8 years, and Jimmy went another 8 years after fucking Pat left. So, and Pat likes to suck off the Giants.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And in 2017, it was supposed to be Pete Rose. It'll be Pete Rose this year, guaranteed. Pete Rose is going to be the most honored man this season because he's dead. Gonna do an episode about Pete Rose. Any final notes on Jimmy Rollins before we roll off? Really, just I think all-time shortstop.
It's really a shame with how his career ended with us. Just that, like, not really was wasting his talent because his talent was no longer there, but he stayed too long here, and we just kept rolling him out there instead of having a younger talent to be ready.
That seems to be a trend with the 2008 Phillies we've done on this. Is like, God, they stayed too long, and they fizzled out. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Ryan Howard, and I'm sure if we went back and listened to Chase, although Chase had a resurgence when he went out to LA, where now you can argue, is he a Dodger or is he a Philly?
Yeah, like Chase was all of a sudden, when he was here, he had terrible knees, and he had like rejuvenated knees when he went out to LA. It was insane.
All that plastic surgery out there, man. Silicon Valley for a reason.
But no, Jimmy was definitely exactly the player that you wanted during the core 4 years, 07 to or 06 to 11, 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
The most important years, and he was there to lead the team in order to bring them up to where they wanted to go. And every year he was trying his hardest to be able to get them there. And finally, being the leader that he was in 2008, they got there and they won it.
Yeah, it's a shame. It seems to be a running trend with some of these guys from 08 that just, I wouldn't say overstayed their welcome, because we all loved them. We didn't want them to leave. I remember when each one of them got traded, even though like the dark era seems to be faded from my memory, that it sucked. It didn't feel right that these guys were, all of them seemed to go to LA before they went elsewhere. It just didn't feel right. Even when Blanton left, and I wasn't the biggest Blanton fan, it just felt like, come on, you're breaking up the band. Nobody wanted to see the NWO or DX break up, and it sucked. And I think it hurt us more ways than not, because they never, after 09, they never got back there. Just the step decline that we're dealing with right now.
And I remember when Chase came back. I was at that game.
Mm-hmm.
His first game back in Citizens Bank Park. It was absolutely insane.
Yep.
I was not there for Jimmy, so I don't remember that. But.
There are very few games I remember from the dark era, but Chase returning was one of them when I was there. Because you hear Cashmere and you go fucking nuts. Hell, it's weird. If you've endeared yourself to Philly, and clearly Jimmy Rollins, Ryan, Chase, Zach one day, all these guys we're doing the focuses on, Philly loves you, irregardless. They'll give you your standing O when you come back for the first time. Look at Reese. And Reese was part of the dark era. And you'll get that standing O, we'll boo you, and then we'll support you the moment your team leaves. Like, you go have a good year elsewhere, but don't come back here. Okay?
Yep.
And I think one day down the road we'll probably end up doing a Phanatic's focus on Reese, because he was part of the dark era, and then kind of got the shaft when it came to the team's a little bit of resurgence they've got going on of like, hey, that all-star right fielder we signed is going to take your spot. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, exactly.
After he had to endure a lot of dark era. Well, that's going to do it for us this week on the Phanatics. Again, it's off season. It's slower. We'll come back to you with news if we have news. So like we did last week, we did the episode of the end of year rewards because they all tallied up. Maybe we'll be back next week if the free agency picks up, especially on the Phillies side of it. We should have Hall of Fame news by that point, I believe. Maybe we'll be back with a live episode. If not, we're going to keep doing these Phanatic focuses in the offseason. There's plenty of Phillies players out there that are near and dear to the heart of Philadelphia. So if you're listening, let us know who you want us to talk about. We've definitely featured a lot of 08 guys. We've featured our first, we'll call it 2022, since that's the most successful year that we've had so far, Zach Wheeler. Anything you got going on, Erik? You want to plug?
No. Nope. Not a thing.
This is your baby. When you look at BPP and you look at content we're pumping out, this is the most consistent project out there since the Dace Man show. And that fucking turd just trucked along just to trek along. Like, no reason.
This could be on the same route.
Not at all. This is quality content. It's better. It's admittedly, it's better during the season when we're having like our violent mood swings. But the off season's causing them too. We're stressing the fuck out every day. It's not interesting podcast stressing out, but our chats back and forth about what the fuck the Dodgers have been doing. Probably dedicate a whole episode on that bullshit. Anyway, that's gonna do it for us this week.
Money.
What's that?
All the deferred money.
Yeah. You grow up and you're told not to max out your credit cards, and the Dodgers are showing you that it's okay. Max out your credit cards. It's going to be somebody else's problem when I die.
Pretty much.
Anyway, that's going to do it for us this week on the Jersey Phanatics. We hope you enjoyed our Phanatic focus on Jimmy Rollins. I've been Chris the Dace Man Dace. He's been Erik Barrezo.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you next week, either with a new Phanatic focus or maybe some news that the off-season starts heating up. We've been the Philly Phanatic, or no, we're not the Philly Phanatics. We're the Jersey Phanatics. Remember, Basement Dweller, stick to the protocol. Ring that damn bell, Erik.
Ding, 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 ding.
See you next time.